Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today, I have another successful agent here in Northeast Florida with a diverse background in real estate. She initially worked the back office or bookkeeping for a real estate investment firm as a contract bookkeeper, is where she was given the opportunity to gain the insight in real estate investing and wealth building. She has a company that buys distressed homes and renovates them for resale. Let's welcome Buy or Sell with Joy of the Keller Williams Atlantic Partners, Joy Williams, to the show.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming down and learn a little bit about what Joy's doing. And I think it's really important. I've had a couple agents on recently too. Dig into your diversity of what you're doing, because I think you just reading your LinkedIn. We didn't. Besides a little chat here before the show, I was like, wow, here's an agent. She kind of came in the back door doing the bookkeeping, and then seeing what was going on, and then I guess you and your husband got into flipping some properties. And what has that done to expand your knowledge and your I think experience that you can share with investors and so forth? Because I have, over the years, almost 19 years in this business, I mean, many times our agents like, I got someone who wants to buy an investment property. What do I do? You know what I'm saying? And I think it's so important that agents, diversify some, look to buy some investment properties for themselves and start expanding their horizons.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into this business because my husband was working for investors as the contractor doing the work for the homes. Then at the same time, I was doing bookkeeping, mobile bookkeeping for lots of real estate investors. The writing was on the wall that the recession was coming. I could see that houses were slowing. He wanted to continue to work in vacant homes instead of doing his contracting work in occupied homes. So we decided we would crowdsource and see how we could find funds for ourselves to flip houses.
Cool.
We're able to find one investor that we still use to this day and to buy and sell houses with. So we started with that. I didn't have my license when we first got started, but as a bookkeeper, I could see the numbers going out, and we were doing the FSBO, essentially, flat fee listing, but I'm managing the whole transaction myself. So Once that came down, I'm like, I need to get my license so that I can save the money, have more control over the transaction. Then now I have my license. I'm sitting sidelines at soccer games and basketball games with my kids, and all these other parents are telling me, I'm buying a house and this is what my situation looks like. And I'm like, that's not what the contract says. You don't have to be bullied into certain things either. And your agent sounds like they don't know what they're doing. So then I realized, you know what, I have value too. And my value is not just in our investment properties. I can assist others in buying and selling homes. So that's when I went from part-time selling houses to full throttle where I am today.
Awesome. Get my little sponsorship in here today. If I can, I got my new Remy graphics there for those who are looking online. These beautiful mugs. These are laser printed. You can see these nice. I got the Real Estate Excellence Podcast logo and Remy graphics on the back. These are beautiful. She does other things. You go to remygraphics.com, and she can make these one-off. If you got a closing and you want to put John and Sally,
that's very nice.
May 2024, type thing. There's no minimum.
That's
basically
awesome.
So if you need just one or two, great. If you're ordering a few dozen, that's even better. But this is your gift today.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, excited to be here.
So thank you, Remy Graphics. I like to kick off the show with where are you from?
I am from the Panhandle of Florida. So I was born and raised in a tiny town outside of Pensacola called Gulf Breeze. And then I met my husband in 1999 and moved over to Jacksonville.
Now, did I see Montana University on there?
Yes.
Something like that? Where did that? My first thought was, all right, I met my husband, and I'm thinking, okay, he's in the Air Force. They sent him out to Montana for the Air Force base out there or something. But go ahead.
My parents separated when I was in high school, and my mom wanted a change of life. So she accepted a job at Montana State University, and I graduated high school there. So when you graduate high school in whatever state, that's where you get in-state tuition. So my mom decided to come back to we were in the Panhandle, went to Montana, then she came to Jacksonville to settle. So I went to school for 2 years there. When I came home on Christmas break, my sister was dating my husband's brother, and they introduced us.
Okay.
And then that next summer when I came home, we got engaged, and that's how I landed here. But I did spend 2 years in the accounting program at Montana State University. Loved Montana. It is like a soul healing place for me.
Is that right? It is. Well, it's so interesting. The United States, being as large as it is, whether you're down here in Jacksonville or you're in Seattle, or in this case, Montana, and everywhere in between, the different cultural things, but there's a different way of life.
Oh, very different way of life. Especially, I mean, that was 98 to 2000. So it was slower there than it was way before, all the Yellowstone TV shows that have amplified it and glorified its presence. It was very untouched at that time. So it's still beautiful. It's still very untouched, but even in the late 90s, very different.
I find it interesting. It's been a couple of years since I was I don't know if I was watching something on YouTube or whatever, but this real estate agent's video came up. This video had gone viral. I think I was listening. I don't know what it was. I was listening to podcasts, and he was on the podcast. That's what it was. And he had created this YouTube video. He's Montana agent, and and I think there's still going on. There's a lot of Californians who are wanting to move to Montana. And they're like, oh yeah, we want to move up there. We want to have acreage, and we want to we want to live out away from the city. That side of the kind of thing. And it's obviously there's no LAs in Montana, and so I guess he showed this property. He drove him out in the middle and he goes, okay, you realize you have no self-service here. You need to buy something with a plow because you're so far away from town and you're so far away from the main road, you're going to need to plow yourself out in the wintertime. So he decided on the way back to town, he just stopped on the side of the road. And he shows this video. He just set up the phone on the hood of the car or something. And he did this video talking about what's it like to move to Montana. And you can see the mountain way, the road goes and then it kind of just fades. And then it's a big mountain in the background and all this stuff. And he's talking about bears. He's talking about all these things. But how so many people don't realize that when they come from the city, Montana is out there.
Yes, very much so. Montana prepared me for traffic in Jacksonville, actually, because in the panhandle of Florida, every Highway 98 just runs east and west. So one way in, one way out. Pretty simple to get everywhere you needed to go. We probably budgeted 15 minutes to get everywhere. When you live in Montana, you budget 45 minutes to get anywhere, especially my girlfriend's parents' house that was outside of town where they did have acreage and horses and stuff. Right. If it was winter, it could take you an hour to get in town. Right. But now, here in Jacksonville, 35, 45 minutes from anywhere. Yes, you got the Beltway.
Exactly.
And a good podcast.
I noticed you were an education major, though.
Accounting.
Accounting. Okay, I misread that right there. So what was initially your career idea? You obviously got into bookkeeping. Was that something you just naturally came to you, or your parents did it, or how did you fall into that career
When I was
first?
in high school, I didn't want to be in the band anymore. So my mom said I had to join a club. So I joined Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA. Right. I did that all through high school. And then when I did it in high school in Montana, it was BPA. So very similar organizations, but I loved it. I loved competing, doing my Excel spreadsheet competitions. We did interview application competitions. So I always knew business was in my background. The accounting emphasis at Montana State was just they had a great accounting program. And so it's like, well, if they have that and that's where I'm going, let's go with this. But I've always known business is where I thrive.
How, having that background and obviously, some of your career jobs we mentioned earlier, you were doing the bookkeeping for some of these real estate investment firms, but having that mindset, having that, P&L type mentality, and taking it into your real estate, and I imagine your husband's business of doing the renovation and construction work.
Yeah, for sure. So that background really helps solidify a lot of things. I think it's what helps me thrive on all levels with the accounting, because I do see P&Ls and balance sheets in my head. I completely understand how they fall out and where they fall out, and I can see how new agents struggle because they don't realize we're all 1099 employees, and that it's so important that we, money in and money out and where our investments go and that type of stuff. So it's incredibly helpful for me to be successful as an agent, but it's even more helpful for my customers because I can then advise them appropriately about, especially if they're investing in properties themselves.
Right. Because that's a thing now. It's always been, and lending has bounced it back and forth, but whether you're buying it in your LLC, not, and structuring those things, I imagine it's giving you the ability to talk about those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it gives, when we do home inspections, I see houses different ways than agents. I immediately look at it more as an investor than I do as someone who's just trying to sell a home. My customers will get tickled because I'll say, you can't buy this house unless they're willing to reside it. And I try not to make those decisions for them. I just said that, as if I authoritatively tell my customers not to buy properties. But I don't always. I'm just their guiding post. But for the most part, my point is that I have a good sense of whether the house needs a lot of work and whether you have the money to be able to do those things or not, because we've had good conversations about that. So it's really helpful for us to know, like, if you don't have a lot of money, maybe you don't invest in a house that has a well and a septic tank.
Right.
If you're not a good saver. So all of those things are really helpful that I learned from the investment side of stuff, because we took on projects with wells and septic tanks, and they've been very expensive projects.
Right.
And maybe something that we weren't expecting in our investment property. So then it does help me get in front of a customer who might be first-time home buyer, not large savings. Yeah, this is a great house, but it doesn't have a newer septic tank system. Do you realize in the future you might have to invest all the funds to update that? So those are things that have really helped me as an investor be able to help buyers know, like, costs that could be coming in the future.
The lot of talk from the lending side on renovation loans, but from what I'm hearing from you guys as real estate agents, is the customers out there today really want turnkey.
Yeah.
So that puts you and your husband kind of in the middle of, like, well, great, because we like to flip homes, but obviously getting in that home correctly is important because you're not in it for charity. You got to make some money off it.
The equity spread must exist.
But your ability, I imagine you've done enough, or you bring your husband on and some stuff that's more serious. When you're out showing a client some of these homes that maybe were built 20 years ago, they're in great neighborhoods, but no one ever updated it. It's just still got this, still got the same decor from when they, the original builder stuff from 20 years ago. Do you find sometimes you have to bite your tongue a little bit because you could start almost going, yeah, I would renovate this, I would do this, and then all of a sudden the numbers start going up, and then the people are like, oh, this is too much?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a talker by nature. I love to talk. I love to be the one in charge of the conversation. But real estate has taught me not to talk. And it's really taught me that being an active listener is more important to the sale than it is for my opinion. And I've learned the hard way that putting my opinion out there can be a deal killer. And it can be a reason somebody doesn't want a house. So I try to just sit back and only offer my opinion when asked, when it comes to, especially because I may not like cherry oak cabinets, but that doesn't mean that my buyer or that they
might be coming from Montana and they might love that.
Exactly. It might be their look, who knows? I mean, not everybody loves the new look of the white cabinets with the granite countertops.
Right.
It's different for everyone, for sure. So yeah, I try to focus on the 4 points. If the house it meets all 4 points for a 4-point inspection, and we can get good insurability on the property, and get good comparables, it's a great house for you.
Right. Now, I'm kind of jumping ahead in my normal routine, but I think because we're on something, I think it's important for the listeners. Going into these on a listing appointment, when you've got one of these homes that needs some work, how do you approach that versus that buyer? The buyer is a little different. Like you said, you don't know what they're going to like, but obviously you want to present the home what seems to be the the thing now, right?
Right. Yeah.
The white countertops. Is that feasible? When you go in and start having chats with some of your listing appointments, how do you structure that? And then if you could lead into from the lending side, because obviously that existing home versus new construction right now, because you have a knowledge in your head of what that room could look like, or that kitchen could look like, or whatever, to really make it. Because I think the existing homes are built better. You're getting more square feet per dollar on the existing homes, and there's something different about being in an established neighborhood that has trees, you know what I'm saying, and that sort of thing. So, how do you, when you go into that listing, get that home, so make sure it's going to get the proper dollar? How do you break it down for that homeowner, or kind of give us a conversation, maybe one you've had recently with somebody where you said, hey, we need to do some tweaks here?
Yeah, so for sure, I had a listing a year ago in off Hermitage Road in the Fort Caroline area, and it had original kitchen, original bathrooms, but
those homes were built probably in the 70s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Early 70s. It did have aluminum wiring. It had in-ground pool that was green. But it also had beautiful laminate floors throughout. The kitchen, even though it was original, was painted and looked in great shape. So the house was very livable, except for some things such as the pool and those types of things. So to get in front of that one, I worked with a company to create renderings of what the kitchen would look like if it was renovated, what the bathrooms would look like if they were renovated. We printed them out, put them on poster boards, put them in each one of those rooms so people could look forward to what that house could look like in the event they chose the renovation. Then we did offer the financing for it if they chose to do renovation financing.
Right.
I managed the expectation with the seller by just, saying the houses that are selling on the marshfront in this area,
getting that top dollar,
that are getting that top dollar are this. The houses that are in your shape, that are not on the marshfront, are this. And so looking between those two, we should get a range of this number. And we sure did. We got it right on. I mean, then the appraisal did require that the pool, be blue, and that we had to satisfy some stuff. And with those things, because my sellers did not want to come out of pocket with the money up front, I worked with contractors who would accept money on the day of closing. So my pool guy got paid the day of closing, the deck guy that needed work done, the electrician, everybody got paid from the closing funds.
Right.
So we were able to mitigate the entire circumstance by managing expectations, by telling, hey, seller, you're not going to get top of the neighborhood, but this is how I'm going to creatively market your home to be sure that we can sell the home for you and get the most equity for the neighborhood. And then, since you don't have or want to spend the money up front, these are the other ways I can manage those expectations and have those people paid at closing.
You tipped on something I think is very important, something I've been bringing up regularly on the show, the importance, if you want to be a top producing, influential real estate agent, to have those people on your Rolodex, which obviously it sounds like, people say, well, her husband's a contractor, so she, well, it doesn't mean you have to have a husband that has to be a contractor.
And disclaimer, my husband does no work for any of the houses for my buyers or sellers. And the truth is, because he runs his own business, right? He's doing his investment side. So he is not doing the work for me, for my customers. So yes, my Rolodex of people, I actually overheard him telling someone the other day, I don't have someone for that. Joy will, though. And at this point in time, she knows more people than I do because she's working more regularly with diverse contractors than he has.
Different situations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how important, if, I don't know how often at Keller Williams, or if you do some training, they bring you in to talk to some of the new agents, but if they invited you down to NEFAR and said, hey, we're having this new agent seminar, we're bringing in top agents or experienced agents like yourself and coming in and talking to them, how important it, right off the bat to maybe get with another agent like yourself. Now, not all agents like to share their, because
they should not be in competition with each other. We should all be in cooperation with one another.
Right. But
to each their own.
To get with other agents that like yourself, give you a call, sit down, have coffee with you, and trade some of these things. Hey, I got this pool guy, and the fact that the pool guy was willing to wait 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, before he got paid, I mean, that's a home run there.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd be happy to share my vendors' information, because when my vendors do well, then I'm doing well. So I want
Just remind them that referral came from you.
right. Just tell everybody Joy let you know, because then at the end of the day, like, when I moved my license over to Keller and I was being introduced to the Keller Williams brand, the big thing was I needed to brand myself as a local expert. How do I set myself apart from the competition? By being the local expert. So, and part of being the local expert is having a Rolodex of people, so that when my customers know, like, I need a roofer, they don't even go to Google. They just go to Google Joy. Right. Joy, who's my roofer? Who's the flooring person that I use? And that's important. I want them to know that I'm a tool that they can always have. And the same for the agents, because I really just believe everybody should do well. I do believe we should all be in cooperation to be successful.
Well, I mean, I think there's Florida contractors have a stereotype or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, a lot of these guys don't show up.
Yeah, sure.
And
that's true.
To become that resource, which I think, you know, with the whole NAR settlement and things like that, I think agents need to, and you can agree or disagree with me, I think agents need to spend more time being that concierge, that community influencer, that go-to person, because you are working with these guys. Like, if John says he's going to be there at 8:00 on Monday morning, he's going to be there, you know, because a lot of contractors, they don't show up, or they double book themselves because for whatever reason, you know, they're tight on money. They start a project, then jump to another project and juggle both projects, and, you know, that kind of stuff going on. You know, to have that resource like yourself to refer somebody that's actually going to show up.
Yeah, and then I like to get the feedback from my customers. How did it work? That's another way to touch my customers without them realizing it, right? So you asked me for a vendor information, put a reminder in my calendar 3 weeks later to follow up to see how that worked out.
Yeah.
It's beneficial because it allows me to touch the customer to stay in communication, but then it also allows me to know if that vendor's still doing good, because sometimes they're not doing good anymore and they might need to fall off my list.
100%. There's no doubt they could show up 3 times, do a home run job, and then the 4th time, did somebody quit that was on their crew, maybe. Life happens. That type of thing. You kind of answered actually probably half the questions already, but I have a lot more. We even talked about what triggered you to got your residential license. I had that in there. When you first got into retail, you already had a background, working knowledge of what was going on. You had your own transactions that you guys had done some flips, but let's talk about that first year. You know, the first day you walked in to the initial brokerage you went to, were you kind of like, okay, what do I do next? Tell us, kind of walk us through, because thinking of as we talk pre-show, the listeners, we might have a new agent on here, and they just walked into a brokerage, and they're like, yeah, you got your license. Okay, yeah, you can sit over there and flip open your laptop, and no one's there to take over. Now, you're with Keller Williams now that specializes.
Sure.
You went to them after having experience, which is another topic to talk about. But a lot of new agents go to Keller Williams because they do have that structured environment, whether you're going to a team or they got tons of people training in your sales centers and so forth, constantly going on all the time. But for you, what was those, first, what got you kicked off in the retail?
So retail was slow for Joy. So my very first year, outside of our flips, I sold 1 transaction. And then I think in year 2, I sold like 6. And it escalated very slowly for me. I'd very much built my business on the side of my bookkeeping business for a long time.
Okay.
I didn't know my value. I didn't have my broker at the time is an amazing person. He is an amazing person, but he's focused on building his property management company, as he should be. That's his bread and butter, and that's what takes care of his family. The investment in my business was there as far as like, you got this, girl, but there wasn't a whole lot of training and such. So I built it very slowly because I didn't know what to do. I just happened to do a good job of treading water for a long time.
And the excuse was, well, I'm doing my bookkeeping business, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you had that other income coming in, like, and then I can imagine as a broker, it's like, well, she's just kind of doing this part-time. She's got a bookkeeping business, and she's doing a few deals.
Right. And
everything's good.
and I didn't take myself serious. I didn't come in. I see other agents come into Keller and they're selling more than me in their first year. And I'm like, dadgum, what would it have been like if I had done that for myself in the beginning? What would that have looked like? But my children were very little at that time too, Tracy. They're 17 and 21 now. And I have the independence to just go and leave and go to showings and stuff. I didn't have that in those first few years. I didn't want that either. I wanted to be present for my kids. I didn't want to have to be like, sorry, I'm going to miss a game so I can do this showing real quick last minute because I know this is the house and they're going to buy it. So I started out really, really slow. That worked for me at the time. But then the need, the desire to want, because to just know that there's more out there and that I should be pushing for myself came. And that's why I transitioned to Keller, was because I felt like there was so much more to learn. And I had barely bitten into the apple.
So a question, a topic, anyone's listening to the show, and if I did not bring this up on one episode, point it out, that initial choice of brokerage, what led you to that brokerage at that time?
I interviewed with several different brokerages at the time because it was going to be a strategic change for me. I do not change. I'm loyal. So like I most likely will never leave Keller because I took so much time and research and investment and where I wanted to go and how I wanted to grow. And that the Atlantic Partners really is a very good structure for me. They've been very beneficial in reminding us that they have a buffet of items that we can eat from, right? Like, but how we choose to consume the knowledge is on our own, and how we choose to build our business is on our own. And so I liked the idea that I could take one thing and then grow, but that I didn't have to be all in. And I didn't, my team leader at the time was Pete Sherrill. I felt like he was going to hold me accountable, but he wasn't going to, be like a dojo on me because I can't take that kind of pressure. I pressure myself enough. And so Pete was like the perfect balance for me to tell me you have value and you're going to do amazing at this. Just like actually believe in yourself. And so that's really where, what I was looking for was somebody to believe in me and to believe in my growth of self. And so that's where I settled with Keller Williams. And then all the rest just kind of came with it. I didn't start drinking the Kool-Aid, if you will, probably until 2 years in, until I could actually stand and look at the past 24 months and how my life had grown spiritually, how my life had grown with my business and with my family, and how that had been supported through the structure that Keller Williams offers.
But there's no doubt they're doing something well over there because of there's a lot of top agents like yourself. Now you went from your initial brokerage. There's people who have been doing well with other brokerages. I mean, really well, and moved over. You moved over and got better.
Right.
If I'm getting this correctly.
Almost tripled my business.
Yeah. So they're doing something well over there to maintain, which I think is the biggest challenge for brokers, is retention. How do you continue to add value to the agents? Because when you stop adding value, then that's when they start looking.
Well, and the value has to be there because at the end of the day, we cap, right? So I'm only worth a number to my broker. I mean, my broker is an amazing person. I know he is invested in all of us individually. I do believe that Steve Tufts invests in each of us individually. However, we are just, everybody only cashes the same amount of money coming in. So how does he keep us there? How does he retain us there? Is through leadership. And our leadership really, they teach us to pour into our customers. That's how I built my business through their guidance, was pouring into my customers. So they in turn take that on in themselves and they pour into us as agents. So very often, when my son graduated high school, they send graduation cards. They support my family in the same way that I support my customers' families. And so that feels good. It feels genuine.
Knowing what you know now, you started off the one brokerage, whether, like you said, he was focused on something else. But if you're a new agent coming in, you were a survivor. But you had some real estate background to live. Someone coming in cold from corporate America, or we talked about the late Sarah Rocco, and there's been others that have been on the show. Sarah was a single mom.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden her husband wants to get divorced, and now, she's got to go find something to do, to earn a living. And, the rest is history there. So, but people that are in that situation, people that are thinking about getting into real estate, knowing what you know now about the brokerages and seeing a couple different brokers, and how, obviously you went on there for a couple minutes bragging about, Atlantic Partners setup. How important is it, and what should these new agents be doing prior to making their choice of where they go?
They need a business plan. I mean, if I was a brand new agent and I was interviewing with brokerages, I would ask them, how are you going to help me create, design, and execute a business plan? Because without that, you're really just chasing transactions and unlocking doors. Because if you're not building your business, then you might be out of business the next time you close a house. You might close a house and then you're out of business because you weren't actually running a business. So I think that that's the most important thing for a new agent. And then to ask themselves, where am I going to find my customers, and see if that brokerage is going to help support you. My brokerage never acted like they were going to give me referrals. They never promised me something and under-delivered. But what they did tell me is that they can show me how to find my own leads, my own customer leads. And so I think that that's important for any new agent, is what's your business plan, and then where are your customers going to come from?
I'm going to break. You graded 2 questions for me. Tell me, in your 24 business plan, you break it down, some of the simple things that you put in there that you're doing on a daily basis. I imagine you've got something, you've got a schedule. Like I know a lot of places, brokerage, they say from 9 to 11 in the morning or whatever, they're totally prospecting. You're just calling people, whatever. They got a number every day that they're going to do. What are a couple things that you've got in your business plan that you have regimented that you are required to do, whether on a daily or weekly basis?
So I require myself to comment on Facebook posts, especially with people that I haven't had, that are in my sphere and I know that are going to be shopping soon. And I can get an idea of that based on conversations that their friends have told us, so on and so forth. So I like to be active in people's Facebook conversations that they've started at least 3 to 5 times in the morning. So that's the first thing I do after I get ready.
And just to touch on social, legit comments, you're not just liking, you're actually saying, "Oh, that's great, Sally. Can't wait to see you again." You want to actually write a sentence,
right? Because Facebook, it's all algorithmic, so it's all intentional. So because Facebook, obviously now you can click on to make a comment, and it will say congratulations and give you emojis. And if you want, you can put that on there. But you're not going to push up to the top comments if they have 100 comments on there, right? Your little congratulations is going to get lost. It's so important that all of your comments on Facebook be more than 5 words. If you can make it more than 5 words, that's what they really want.
Well, Instagram is the same way.
It's all meta.
Yeah.
So exactly. So you want to always do more words with your comments, and then you want them to be intentional. So remember their children's names. So it's not just happy birthday. Happy birthday, Ben. I hope it's a great 17th year for you. Right. And, it pushes up in that algorithm. And then it also helps that customer who's also your friend, because mind you, for the most part, all my customers are my sphere of influence. I've met them through friends or through people at church or other friendly relationships, and then I built their relationship into a friendship also. So while it's intentional, it's also heartfelt. It really is coming from a good place. But I do know that it needs to be more than just a congratulations or I'm super excited.
You're leveraging, in this case, Facebook to stay top of mind.
Yes.
And, the great comment I had, Carl was on the show. He said, social media is designed to be social.
Right.
And that's what they're looking for. You're making these regular comments. There was somebody did a little reel on Instagram. So what should you be doing, on Instagram in 2024? And you should post X amount a week. You should, but the biggest thing was comments on people's posts.
Yeah.
Was the number was the well I would say I don't think I want to say the number was like 20 a day or something. That's they felt you should do that. But it's putting you in it's not something that's going to happen right away. But I think these agents who are getting business, or even business people who are getting business from social media, they're setting that in their business plan that they're going to take 30 minutes in the morning or whatever it is and go down and make these comments, and then it starts to build.
Yeah. So I follow a specific. I probably should have told you that when I led into it. So I do follow a specific plan, the DTD2, which is do the database twice, but I do it really more than twice, the 2 at the end. So each week is labeled. It starts off A and W is week 1, and then during that week I do different touches. So sometimes it might just be Facebook. If it's A and W for that week, it might be a Facebook messages, or I send them a private text message, or just a regular email. So when that week comes up, I have a whole Excel spreadsheet that tells me what I should be doing for that last names that week. So I just wake up, open the laptop, and I'm like, oh, it's A&W week, so I need to send everybody with the last name A&W texts this week. But it might be B&E also that gets instant messages, right? So I'm supposed to be touching about 100 people a week, whether it's emails, messages, or Facebook comments.
100 people a week is roughly the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, but life gets in the way too.
No, it's interesting that I've never had anyone, and not saying that you're the only one that's possibly doing it, but the only one, like I said, I asked that question about the business plan because you brought it up, to commit yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Because as much as we're running around chasing the new flashy thing, as agents and loan officers can, with all the stuff that's thrown at us all the time, oh, this will make it easier, this will make it easier. Social media is a long-term play.
Yeah.
But the goal is to stay top of mind. And you never really know if that customer came from social media unless they point blank saw you. You know what? I didn't know who you were. Your social media thing came up. I've seen it a couple times. You look like a cool person, and now I'm ready to buy or sell a home. I'm going to call you. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot.
No.
It's because you're getting most of your clients from your sphere.
Yeah.
They already know you, but you're reminding them, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm your real estate agent, I'm here, even though you probably never even mentioned real estate, but they know every time they see your name, they know what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And before COVID, I used to host bunco at my house every month. So I'd have anywhere from 12 to 20 women rolling dice for about 3 hours, and we'd all laugh and have a great time. But I'm telling you what, you switch tables at bunco, and we'd switch tables, and I'd get in front of somebody that I hadn't had a conversation with, and everyone, the first thing they ask me is how's real estate, because I work hard to stay top of mind. My social media is intentional 5 days a week. We have Monday market updates, Tuesdays tips, Fridays our feature Friday. That helps me be a local expert by always highlighting somewhere local in town on Fridays. So the social media does not get me leads. I know a lot of people say I get a lot of leads from social media. My social media does not bring me leads. What it does is it supports my business, and it shows my sphere of influence in everybody. Joy is actively working in real estate. We all know 10 realtors, right?
Right.
Everybody does. But my goal is, if you know 10 realtors, then you think about who's the one that's working the most, who's the one that's active in real estate and is going to know her stuff. Oh, Joy, because she's on social media 5 days a week. And not only is she on social media 5 days a week, she messages me and she asks me how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she takes that time to make me feel like a person, not a number, not a reason that she needs to earn money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like I said, it really, I think a lot of corporate America is missing this right now.
Oh yeah.
Some have gotten it, some don't. I can, talk to the, I won't mention names, but because you're actively there, that person who maybe you sold a home for 6 months ago, but because you're actively in front of them all the time when someone says something to them about buying or selling homes. So now it looks like it came from there, but it was really your social media that kept top of mind, that gave that person the reminder to refer you, and then they go, well, where'd you get the business? Well, Sally referred me, but Sally referred you because you stayed top of mind with Sally through social media.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah.
It happened recently. A husband wife that I'm good. I know her through the church school group, and he recommended me to another person in his office. And the gentleman was like, he says you're the best in the business, but I also looked you up on my own. I saw your 5-star reviews on Google, and I saw your work on Instagram and things like that. So I know that you're an active working agent.
You're running a business. You're running a business.
Yep.
I wrote, what did I write down here? I always sorry. I just like one word. That's going to remind me, right?
Yeah, that's good.
I think we actually covered, but the customers, because I wanted to dig in the business plan, but it led into, really what I think when I hear somebody, Josh Rogers said it really well when he was on, and when someone says, "Oh, my social media is not getting me any business," I said, "Well, then stop doing social media and see where your business goes."
I mean, yeah, if you feel like it's not doing you, if I felt like it was not beneficial, I would not be doing it.
Right.
But I do find it to be very beneficial in a lot of ways. Okay, so the Feature Fridays, for instance, those help keep my algorithm really good on Instagram. Most of my reels that take off are local hotspots.
So what do you do for that?
So on Fridays, on Feature Fridays, I do every Friday I feature a local place. So like this last week, we just featured the donut. Is it the donut shop in Arlington? I think that's the name of it. I feel silly for not remembering off the top of my head.
You're creating a sweet treat in Jack's Beach. Is that the one?
Oh yeah.
Well,
so
pinned.
that one's pinned because that's got a lot of views. So that's cookies and cream out at Jack's Beach. So yeah,
there's a donut shop.
Yeah,
right
there's
here.
the donut shop in
Donuts,
Arlington. Yeah. So every Friday I post about a local area, and those get the most views. Those get the most reshares. They're the ones that get the most active comments. A lot of people are like, "Oh, my favorite donut place in all of town," and things like that. So those help support all the other stuff. So social media it's a pillar in my business, but it does not have a return. Like I get a customer there, and now I have a commission.
They're clicking on a website and we're clicking on a link or called an 800 number designed off that ad.
Exactly.
You have direct measurement, but you don't with the social. But the doing the small business is brilliant. Obviously, that's something all the big people say that's something agents should be doing.
Yeah.
Because when you go on there and post that, you're collaborating
with that business.
That business. So now you enter all those people who like that business, who know maybe whether they know the owners or not, but maybe they frequent that place, and they see that they have an active social media page. You're now going and collaborating with them, and so now you start entering the circle of that business, who have a lot of people that you may have never met before.
And that's why that cookies and cream one does so well, is because they collaborated with us. They were active in that marketing, and that they allowed us to tag them. Well, we tag all of them, but sometimes you can be a collaborator in a video. So we sent it to them and said, will you collaborate with us? They agreed. So then they're sharing it on their networks. I'm sharing it on my network. So we almost double our visibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And how much time do you spend for something like that?
So I have a wonderful marketing coordinator. So when I started my social media calendar, I did all the work, and then I hired it out. And it's a recent graduate from FSU in marketing. She creates all of my
Is
my
this
social
someone
media posts.
not involved with Atlantic Partners, or someone who's in the Atlantic Partner family?
She's not a realtor.
Okay.
She's actually my son's fiance
Okay.
now.
Okay.
They just got engaged. I forget to refer to her that way. But and before her, it was a preschool teacher that I could tell. The first person I approached to do the work, I could see from social media that she was doing all this great Canva work for her students in her preschool 4 class. So I called her and said, hey, would you be interested in coming over and me showing you what my social media looks like and replicating it? And so then she and I learned our relationship together on how those designs should look and not look. Then when Caroline, my son's girlfriend, got into her senior year at FSU, she needed an internship. So I let the other girl go and let Caroline step into her place. And so for the last year and a half, Caroline's been doing all of my marketing, and she does an amazing job.
Right.
I pay her hourly, and We consult together.
But did she create the little video there that I was just watching?
Yep.
She walked in the coffee shop and she did that.
So she goes into the coffee shop and does that. Yeah.
Okay.
And takes those videos, and then I reimburse for any of the food that she buys while she's there, and then she's paid for all her time, even when she's at the restaurant or the park or wherever.
Right.
And then yeah.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant, because you're not even, taking it to another level would be actually like putting yourself on the screen with maybe the owner or someone there. And
I just don't
doing
have
a
the
little
time for that.
Yeah.
I have all great intentions for that,
Mm-hmm.
to put myself in front of the camera more, and I would love to. It's just it's hard to be camera forward facing and be customer forward facing, and my priority is my customer, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to be as forward facing with my customers as possible. So that means that some areas are gonna hurt.
So you reached a level where obviously, time, you hit I call it hitting a lid. It's John Maxwell's thing.
Mm-hmm.
You hit a lid in your production, and because you have your long-term marketing campaigns. You obviously we talked about social media, which that's an active, and staying top of mind. You might get a call 10 minutes later, it might be weeks later, but hopefully somebody that you were regularly touching on social media sends you somebody that's looking to buy or sell. So at some point you reached that lid. When did you realize that now it's time, I need to kind of spill over some of these other tasks like the marketing stuff to other people?
I would say 2022 is when I realized, oh my gosh, how I cannot be all of these same people. I can't be a transaction coordinator and a realtor and a social media marketer and a mom and a wife and all of that. So then I had moved off the social media marketing at that point in time. So then I farmed off my newsletters. I do monthly newsletters that go by snail mail. Also do quarterly happy mail to my customers too. The magnet that we discussed before the podcast is what is considered happy mail. So I have a young lady that does all of that work for me too. So I started just realizing I want to be my brand. I want to be forward facing. So instead of hiring realtors to unlock doors for me and hiring realtors to do the realtor job, I will just hire other people. So most all of my marketing is run on its own machine. The girls and I consult on everything that happens. I have all final decision making, but that is like a well-oiled machine train that I don't even think about until their email comes in front of me and says, "What do you think?" So all of my marketing is it's streamlined, it's processed, and it's perfect for now. I'll tweak it again at the end of the year like I do every year when we have new business plans. And so then I have a transaction coordinators. I have Samantha Cox and her team with my ops suite. I had kind of fumbled through transaction coordinators until her. And then with her...
She's a pay-for-play...
She's a pay-for-play transaction coordinator. Mm-hmm.
What's the name of that company?
It's called My Ops Suite.
My Ops Suite. Okay.
Suite, yes. And that's Samantha Cox. She used to run the Rocco team for a while. Okay. And then she also worked directly with Margaret Sherrill and her team, and then recently created My Ops Suite on her own. So it's her as well as 3 other transaction coordinators, and she just does a phenomenal job. She helps me get my listings up for me, and then she manages my entire transaction. So this weekend I got 2 houses under contract, and 2 years ago I would have sat down in front of the computer and been a keyboard warrior and been, "Congratulations, you're under contract, what's next?" and all of the things for both of those contracts. Now I simply upload all the documents that are necessary to Samantha's system, and then today I know that when I leave here and check my email page, my assigned transaction coordinator will have sent both contracts all the information they need. They've gone to all the right people. So adding that pillar to my business was huge too. I don't let go very well, but Sam and her business is very good.
You have confidence in it.
I have very good confidence.
And they've had a track record. Because what would you say to an agent that says, "Oh, I've talked to other, that are at this lid point. I've talked to other people. Their transaction coordinator screwed up and did this and that, and because I think a lot of people have the control thing, and then the other thing you mentioned, well, these little emails going out saying congratulations, you're at this step or whatever. I want to do that because it's coming from me, and I want to, just like you're saying, top of mind social media. Are you staying top of mind during the transaction?
Sure, yeah. And I managing expectations is my favorite thing to do. So I do manage expectations with my customers. Hey, yes, it's me. I'm forward facing the whole time. But once we go under contract, I have my girls that help me with paperwork so that I can continue to be forward facing for you and all my other customers. Paige will be the one that's in contact with you, but always communicate with me. Also, the other thing that they do is they create a group text message. So it's always me, Paige, and my customers. And so when there's communication happening, Paige is not communicating with my customers without my knowledge at any point in time.
Would you, because that question I just asked you is a question I've asked several people, because I'll tell you about that conversation after the show, but that I'm having with someone. Communication is a big part of the likability of that transaction coordinator, or is that transaction coordinator doing what I'm doing? Because if you're not communicating with them of how you want it, is there a certain time of day you like to get those text messages? Because I've talked to other agents, like Carrie Carpenter, I think was one. I think if I recall, she likes hers first thing in the morning. She likes books written in her text messages. I don't know if I could handle that part, but do you like them during a certain part of your day that communication went out, you're seeing it, and you want that to go out a certain part of the day, or that doesn't really matter? Because it goes back to circle back as communication in setting expectations with the transaction coordinator. Hey, this is what I want. Then the transaction coordinator can succeed,
right?
Or hopefully be on a path to succeed in your eyes, because other people may actually like that person, because for whatever reason, but you might be more stringent, like, hey, I want that by 9:00 in the morning. I want to see that. So then, okay, we'll let the transaction coordinator know that you want that text message going out at 9 a.m. And, that will please you.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that I'm okay with communication coming. I like it prompt communication. So I don't want you to wait to tell me anything. So if it's something I need to know, email me now, right now, text me immediately.
You may or may not deal with it right then and there.
I may or might, but I like to be able to crisis manage on my own. So I'll decide if it's a crisis, if I'm going to deal with it later, if I'm going to deal with it right now. And with that, so I'd like to just bring it to me when it needs to come to me. I don't need it first thing in the morning. But the transaction coordinator, when I input into their system, the very bottom, it asks me, is there anything that I need to know about this customer? And I'll write a narrative, right? So if it's a sweet gentleman in his 70s, he doesn't like texting, he doesn't like emails, he just wants you to call him, I tell him that.
Right.
If and he recently just went through a life change, his wife passed, please be sensitive to that topic and things like that. So I try to let my transaction coordinator know as much about the customer as I know. Those notes are in my command too, in my back office, so they can see all of that information about that customer too. But I just want them to be on the same page so they know where we are with it. But I'm driving the boat. I want my customers talking to me as much as possible. If they're reaching out to the transaction coordinator, I do like the transaction coordinator to call me and tell me, hey, I just talked to them about fill in the blank. Even if they just talk to them if the wall should be orange, I don't care. I just want to know you're talking and that these people had a concern, whether it's valid or not. So the next time I speak to them.
Because they assume you're sitting side by side in an office together.
They assume, yes.
Yeah.
So that's it. But no, they were my ops suite was my third transaction coordinator group that I went with. And it took me a long time to take a deep breath and say, I'm comfortable with them. But with my husband's diagnosis in January, I knew I had hit my lid. And I knew now I have to be super confident with my pillars to support my business. How can I be forward facing, deal with cancer and my business and all of those things at the same time? And that's when I really knew, like, my marketing has to be a smooth running machine. My transaction coordinators have to be a smooth running machine so that I can continue to produce the way I produce while supporting my husband.
I think I've seen it in the loan world. Like the loan officers want to coddle their loans. I mean, you cannot be, like you said, the forward-facing. You have to be doing the money-making activities. You obviously understand the more FaceTime, the more, and it's really you may have been doing just as much FaceTime, literally FaceTime,
Yes.
but it's how you feel and what you're able to deliver during that FaceTime that these other people taking care of these other standard procedures
Sure.
in a real estate transaction, that that's being done, that you're looking at your watch going, oh, I got to get home, I got to get that done, I got to type that up and send that email, and then I got to go to a kid's ball game or whatever, and then you're no longer forward facing. You may physically be there in front of their face, but you're not forward facing.
Right, absolutely. And that affordability of like leaving and knowing all I have to do is like upload a contract, it's amazing to me, because it allows me to not be weary mentally because of.
So you like filling out the contract yourself?
Yes, I do all the contract drafting. I do all the negotiations myself. I even negotiate all the repairs if you're a buyer. Because
so you're not handing it off to them until, and obviously because they're paid by play, so you're not handing it off to them until you have a signed contract.
Not until I have a signed contract.
Your final agreement.
Yep. And then essentially, they are more than this. So I hate to cumulatively put it this way, but I really just want them to be paper pushers. Just push my papers. Just help me get my help me get my disbursement authorization. That in and of itself sometimes makes you want to go insane. So I'm grateful that I don't have to hound my business department of when are you going to get me the paper so that I can get my check, because the title company likes to get it with an appropriate time, as they should. But we have our systems and procedures in order to receive that disbursement authorization, and that can be an arduous process. So it's just one more mental thing that I don't have to think about, because I know that the girls will do it and to handle that for me.
You cannot reach the levels of the number of transactions that we were talking about, pre-show, that you're doing, and have any vision of growing. Again, an agent by themselves cannot sit there and do 30 transactions a year. I think Carrie Carpenter was on. She said one time last year she literally had 10 transactions going on at the same time. You've got to have other people to rely on, and you're never going to be able to get there unless you start delegating some of these. We call them paper, but they're actually important paper pushers, because these things have deadlines and so forth.
Yes.
And that, though, you knowing those deadlines and you having to do it puts you staying up late at night. You're stressed out, but you want to go to your kid's ball game, but you can't even focus on what's going on because you're going, I got to get home and get that done before I go to bed tonight, type of thing.
Yeah. And my dedicated transaction coordinator is Paige at my ops suite. Everybody gets one that they're assigned to, but I enjoy that she reminds me, because I'll forget sometimes, right? Like I could be in the middle of a transaction showing houses, and my gosh, it is the 10th day and an RRA does need to go out today. What are we going to do about that? And it's 3:00 and I'm standing in a house showing it. 2 years ago, I would have probably gotten in the car and wanted to cry of thinking about all the things that had to get done.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, dear Paige, where are we with that? And she most likely will say, check your email. I've already been in communication. Right. And so that, yes, when you get to a certain point, you have to delegate. You have to let go.
Or you won't grow.
No, you won't grow. You'll
probably
stay stagnant.
Start retracting, actually.
Most likely. Yeah, because you can't be everything to everybody. Right. We'd like to be, right? But we can't. But we can look like we're everything to everybody if we strategically place the appropriate people to support us. And that has really been the defining factor for me in 2024, was having the right partners. Because I don't think I think I hired out of friendship before.
It's not always sometimes that works.
You learn.
But,
and it's not that anybody ever let me down. I've never been let down. Right. But it's just sometimes, with experience comes knowledge. And Samantha has a ton of experience by running the Rocco Group. And so that gave me a lot of confidence to know I would be okay.
I think you mentioned something really well there. Some of these people who are stressed about, I don't want to give something up, I can't do it, but I know to grow, they appease themselves by oftentimes making that first hire not the experienced person, not because they called out to you and said, who are you using that's been successful? What are you, you've gone through 3 and the third one now, everything seems great and you're good with it. They don't make those phone calls.
Yeah.
They're stressed, and then they go and they find a girlfriend that says has some side time, and you're like, oh, go do this. Well, now you just deflated why you didn't even give it up, because you thought it was so valuable you could not give up doing that. But now you just gave it to someone who has no experience, no track record. Maybe they do it well, maybe they don't. But the point I want to make is, you need to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I think the podcast, I'd like to say is a tangible benefit, is you're hearing all these other agents and what they're doing and their mindset and ideology on how they're handling this. That if this is a challenge, pick up the phone and call one of the guests that have been on the show and ask them. Everyone that I've had on, it all is welcome for anyone to call them, send them a text message, whatever it is, and say, who are you using? Why is it you like them? This is what I'm looking for. You think they would, whatever the question is.
Right.
But to reach out to these people, because there's no need to recreate the wheel.
No, I'm not at all. The wheel rolls just fine. So. We don't need to make it square.
Right.
So just ask people what they're doing. And I truly believe we sell 5 counties. Like, we're unique in that as realtors, because if you think about the landmass that we cover territory wise, somebody in New York would not even go down to Green Cove the way we head to Green Cove or up to Nassau County or wherever. Right. So we're unique in that aspect. And because of that, not one agent, not one team. I love Christina Welch. I love her team, but even though they're the biggest, they still can't sell every front door in all 5 counties, right? None of us can. Right. So with that in mind, we have to have a spirit of cooperation, and be on a co-mission, right, together to earn our commission. Right. Because if we're competitive in nature and we're supposed to be getting to the same end of the race at the same time with the same goal in mind, but we're competing, we're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
So I really do. I appreciate that others have poured into me. Christina Welch has poured into me so much at Atlantic Partners. Shara Kavanaugh, she's an amazing woman who's taught me so much about changing my words and how to maybe be a little bit more delicate with the way I say things, or being more of an active listener. So
you mean you tell it like it is?
I do. I try to be as polite as possible. I'm the 4th of 5 kids, so I had to learn filters. They don't come naturally to me. But all of that to say that people poured into me, I will always pour into others, because we grow when others grow.
Well, and the reality is, the reputation of sometimes one agent can spoil the barrel, right?
Sure.
Type of thing. And that gives us a great segue. We're going into the NAR settlement, whatever's going on there. People are stressing out. Obviously, some agents have probably rolled out already, type of thing.
Call me, I'll take your referrals.
Exactly. So, what is your mindset on it? If it's one of these new agents, or just an agent in the office that just runs into you in the hallway and says, "Hey, what are you doing? What help them get their arms around it. How are you taking this on as far as what tweaks have you done in your business here because of this proposed settlement?"
So very minor. Pretty much business as usual for me. So in Joy's world, it changed from offering $1 to $0. I wasn't doing that anyway. So that opportunity, I did buyer broker agreements before anyway. Now my buyer broker agreements will be the actual, Florida form buyer broker agreements instead of the standard one that Atlantic Partners had issued us to use. I always had those conversations with my customers up front. The NAR lawsuit baffles me completely. I do not know how anybody is allowed to say we agree to do something we've never agreed to do before. I feel like this lawsuit is a scam in so many
100%.
ways. And it just fails our VA buyer. At the end of the day, there's no consumer protection with this NAR lawsuit. They demand that it is protecting the consumer. That's not true. You're taking away exposure of what my commissions are. So now you continue to hide with this lawsuit instead of expose. And we need exposure. To me, this lawsuit, I will continue to run my business the way that I did. I'll continue to be transparent. Everybody will know how I was paid. They already knew how I was paid. If we're in a situation to where, there's all these semantics about the buyer broker agreements, and can we make them subservient to a listing agreement. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Because if the listing agreement was signed first before my buyer broker agreement was signed first, who decides what my commission is then, right? This is a big when you really actually look at the semantics of this and you look at the business of what they are deciding for us, they are regulating us in a way that you should not be regulating 1099 employees. So it's all just baffling, but for me, it's business as usual.
Yeah.
Because I'm transparent. You're going to know how I got paid, when I got paid. And it's never not been that way.
Right.
So essentially, at the end of the day, that's where it is. I just hope that we actually get prevailing minds to understand how to actually protect the consumer, because the consumer's not being protected.
No, at least the protections are coming down.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Tracy, why don't we ever tell? This is the thing that kills me. The title company, at least here in Florida, I can't speak for anywhere else, says, "Dear Joy, what is your commission?" Oh, it's 2.5%. You're just going to take my word. The title companies and attorneys don't ever ask for the listing agreement. Why do we not turn the listing agreement over when we turn over the contract? Why doesn't the buyer initial the listing agreement and have a spot on there where they too can see what was agreed to in writing? It's a contract. How's it not part of the other contracts?
Right.
So if we were to actually protect our consumer, we would give up listing agreements. We would show them those things. There would be more transparency. Instead, this lawsuit just provides less and less transparency to the consumer.
No, you and I are on the same page. I think the DOJ's got their hands in the whole thing. And
there's some big corporate conglomerate behind this. Somebody's winning that's not me. Or the consumer, and it doesn't make sense.
I think I have I have no factual data, but I really think this administration, this DOJ, they want to make you all W-2 employees.
Sure.
And not have it's like going back years ago, oh, we're going to be buying and selling real estate online. We're not going to need real estate agents. Well, that all sounds great if you're selling this one condo unit where all the units are the same, but you got to realize you're across the country with different state laws. You're not going to change those.
Sure.
Every state's that want their own laws. You've got every property's different. Everything's got a different title on it. You know how it was handed down. There's nothing that a computer can do to within an efficient period of time. And then obviously when you have humans with human emotions involved, you can't just turn this over to a computer. It just cannot be done.
It's a
even with AI
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to smell a house. You can't smell a house through a computer.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. But no, I agree with you 100%.
And someone made a statement the other day, and I go with it, and I've made it, I think I put it on LinkedIn. The buyers have always been paying the buyer's agent, just been paying it in the price.
Yes.
And I said this on the last show, and I'm going to continue saying it. If you were unrepresented, the first thing you would say, well, you don't have to pay my buyer's agent, so discount the price 3%.
100%.
Yeah.
And I tell people that all the time. If there's a for sale by owner in your neighborhood, that for sale by owner should be reflected 3% less than what the rest of the neighborhood is, because that price is built into it.
Yeah.
Just like when you buy a car off a lot, the commission is built in to pay the car salesman.
Right.
It's there across the board in all industries. It's just it doesn't. Again, it goes back to, I don't know how many times on the state test I had to answer in the word problems. Like, it gives you this elaborate scenario, and the final answer is, there is no set standard commission. Commissions are negotiable. You answer that question methodically 5 to 7 times on a 100-question test, or whatever the numbers are, right? And then now we're settling a lawsuit that says we're not going to do that. You've tested me on that, but that's where we are.
Yeah. No, I agree. I didn't use a scam. I call it a money grab, but same difference.
Yes, exactly. Yes, 100%.
There. New agents coming in today, what should they be doing?
The new agents that are coming in today have to start acting like they've been doing this. So I would say focus on the social media, right? Mm-hmm. So stories on maybe not on your wall every day, but on your Facebook stories, show houses that you have been showing. Maybe take pictures of the classes that you're actively sitting in. It's important to create a top of mind for yourself. So what's your plan to show everybody, hey, look, now I'm a realtor, and keep me top of mind? And because you're new and you probably don't have active buyers or active sellers, I would say that it's, posting about the classes, posting about the houses you're showing on behalf of other agents that may have hired you to unlock a door for them. Also, open houses. Hello. Open houses. We have an epidemic. I know that's a medical word, but we do. And like lots of new agents are coming into the office, and we will offer, I mean, some of us can't hold 3 open houses on a Saturday, right? So we need a new, hungry, young agent to come in and be willing to hold an open house for us. And many times they're not volunteering. And then they say at the Tuesday meeting, I need customers. Well, where were you Saturday when I needed somebody to do an open house? Because your customers are at open house. Open houses are long-term gains, but they're so worth it because that garden will pop all at once. You may meet 5 people at an open house in 2024, nurture them, and then in 2027, you just sold 5 houses from nurtures from 2-3 years ago. So open houses are key.
And a lot of agents have reached a level. They have the listings. They have the circle of influence. They are doing well. They're going out and enjoying their fruits of their labor and spending Saturday with their kids or type of thing. You've got to be. That should almost be. It's shocking actually. You say something so obvious, but
I know, right?
a lot of things we talked about are kind of obvious, but they're not doing it. And human nature. But you become a real estate agent. You should be committed to like, hey, I'm going to be working every weekend because I'm going to find an open house or multiple open houses.
Yeah, I would say so the successful teams, Rocco team and Welch team, their agents are required to hold certain open houses, and they will approach outside of their team if they don't have enough listings. I've been approached by the Rocco team to hold open houses at my listings, and it's beneficial. They get a lot from it. I get a lot from it. My sellers are happy that we're getting traffic, and then they, as buyers agents, are getting their books stacked, learning, meeting new people, and getting the opportunity. You never know
what rock's going to be unturned and they come in that door.
Yeah, most likely they're not going to actually buy the open house. That's like what, 1% that somebody walks into a house and buys a house from an open house. So you have to understand it. Keller Williams has these things called playbooks. They're amazing and they're for everything. So in fact, I messaged, I'm doing an open house this Saturday in Bannon Lakes from 10 to 12. House has been on the market a little while. I don't know why it's being stale. So I decided to bring in an ice cream truck. So we're going to do an ice cream truck social.
June 1st, ice cream. So I think that's on your Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
And then I pay for Meta to promote that so that it helps. And then I target the audience of that neighborhood for people to come in.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then I also share it with my seller. So my seller shares it in their community Bannon Lakes page too. So all the neighborhood knows that it's going on now as well. And then I'll do flyers on Thursday.
How much did you spend for Facebook to
I paid
focus
$80, and it tells me that it will expose it to 40,000 people.
Well, obviously a lot more than that neighborhood.
Right, exactly, right. And that's just what it says it exposes to. We'll see what actually the numbers fall out to. But that was $80 for that. $250 to hire the ice cream truck. And once enough ice cream's been $800 to $250, everybody will have to pay for theirs after that, if we get to that number. But the goal is just to get people into the open house. For me, I know that most likely won't sell that house, but it will give enough exposure that the sellers feel good, like I've been working very hard for them and will continue to. But in the interim, I take that Keller Williams playbook that I asked Caleb for today and really follow the process that's in there, because it's like specifically talks about like putting a QR code up on a sign so you can capture leads that way, what documents you need to have on the table, because essentially you're hosting a buyer's open house, right? So now you're selling yourself as an agent. Like, look at my pretty backdrop of a house, but look on the table here. Here's all the resources I have available for you as buyers, and here's how I'm going to help you as a buyer's agent. So I want to bring you in the house, but then I want to sell myself to you once you get in the door, and you do that by following the playbook that gives you all the guidance to have the resources available for your customers or upcoming customers.
I think a lot of people I don't know if estimate, undersell, whatever the word might be.
Value, maybe?
Undervalue. You're spending $330, $80 for the ad, $250 for that ice cream truck. You and I know that a lot of people who move to a certain community, our planned communities, especially in St. Johns County,
Yes.
are being referred by their friends or family who already live there.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, by providing the ice cream, you are having all these people come around and they're going, so the mindset is, hey, I brought my kid over and they got an ice cream. She's spending her money. She's spending her commissions to get this ice cream truck here.
Mm-hmm.
I want her to do that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My hope is that every customer feels like I worked my hardest for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel like I didn't, I would love to have a very beneficial conversation with them because I want to learn how to grow. Constructive criticism is okay for me, but I've had those conversations with customers, and when they come, that's okay. It's a growing experience. It's very rare that it happens, but I always want my customers to feel like I've worked really hard for them. And $330 as an investment to make it look like I'm working very hard for them it's wonderful. Plus, it builds my books.
Yeah.
It's like it's beneficial in so many ways.
Two things. One particular thing here. You're self-employed. I think a lot of people go in with the employee mentality that they're getting, if they're getting 2.5% on this, okay, well, that's 2.5%. That's mine. No, that,
maybe one.
You have to have some cost of doing business. You can either give it to the IRS or you can, reflect it back to your customer, which hopefully there's a trade-off here that your customer keeps you on because houses are sitting longer, right?
Yes.
You hopefully are other people going, man, when I list my house, I'm going to use Joy because wow, she got an ice cream truck out front. That's out there, right? She's spending her own money in investment to move this house, which is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think, to circle back to what we were talking about, the NAR lawsuit, I don't think enough agents are, there's agents going around taking pictures with their cell phones because either they're afraid to ask the customer to pay for a professional photographer or putting it out of their own commissions to pay for the professional photography, which is a whole nother thing when it comes to your reputation.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't have professional photos, someone's going to, oh man, some people pick up on that stuff. That these weren't done professionally. I don't want them to do that. I want professional photos. So I'm not going to hire that agent. I'm going to hire the agent that does professional photos.
So part of my listing agreement is to show my value,
Mm-hmm.
right? And showing my value is that I hire professional photographers to list your property because in order to help you get the most equity, I could do the whole spiel for you,
Mm-hmm.
but in order for you to get the most equity out of your property and in order for me to do the best by you, I have to hire a professional photographer because like we talked about, stay in my lane. I'm a sort of creative person, but I'm not as creative as my videographer and photographer is.
100%.
And I don't excel in that area. Also, there's large money investments that need to go into those cameras and things like that, which should probably be a separate business than being a realtor if you actually think about it from an IRS perspective. So stay in my lane. Be a realtor. I'm going to sell a house. I'm not going to have a photography business and a videography business and all of those things. But in my listing agreement, it is shown this is what my value is. And if you'd like a reduced commission, we can talk about reduced marketing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then reimbursement is in part of that listing agreement. And I'm up front. I do want $1,500 in the event that you cancel this listing agreement because I'm putting my money out in good faith saying I will work my hardest to sell your house for you. But in the event that you don't feel that that's beneficial, then pay me back.
Right. Well, I think, afraid to ask, afraid to, I think like I said, they got that employee mentality that's their commission and, the company needs to pay for that. Well, there is no company.
No,
Keller Williams ain't going to pay for your professional photos.
No, I pay Keller. I pay him.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I had Deidre with Eyesight Media, where's her card right there? Eyesight Imaging. I want to say Eyesight Imaging on, and the amount of hours she was telling me they can go out and shoot photos for an hour. The amount of hours she spends
behind the computer,
making that all look great. I mean, it doesn't equate.
It doesn't at all. And no, not to when time is money.
Yeah.
Right. And because we're on a realtor show, obviously I'm going to make more money on commission than I am if I'm going to photograph houses. So I'm going to
because that's your expertise,
right. And
your
so,
expertise is at forward facing,
right. So I'm
Yeah.
going to work harder at that and allow my photographers and videographers to do what they're good at. Same with my ops suite, going back to the transaction coordinating, Samantha is a licensed agent, so she does help with listings. So as soon as I get a listing agreement signed, I upload that into her system, give her all the details. She organizes the photographer, the time, she puts the listing in, she connects it with showing time. All of that stuff goes down for me as well. So,
all right, that's now because this is a big one for agents, like not wanting to pass it. They think they've got to make all those connections. Has it taken away from your business because you allowed someone else to arrange the inspector, the photographs?
no, I mean, because I still show up. I still show up when the photographer's there. I still show up when the inspection is there. The girls have access to my full calendar, so they just see where my time slots are in and put me there, and then I show up when I'm supposed to be there. It's been the best part of my business this year. I love it. I love being able to...
And because they're reporting back to you, I imagine, a few hours later.
Yep.
Okay, inspection's going to be here, yeah.
Yeah, all of it. No, it honestly... that is the reason that I can sit in front of you today with the amount of volume that I've done this year, with the amount of times we've sat in medical doctor's offices and hospitals and procedures and everything. Samantha and her team at my ops suite is why I am thriving.
That's a great endorsement. Maybe should I have Samantha on the show?
Oh, you should. She would love it.
I occasionally like to have a supporting business.
I think that's a great idea. Yes, because she offers so much, and it's because she was an agent, so she sees the multifaceted support that's needed. But she likes the systems and processing. She's not the forward facing like I am. So she thrives, and she's built a thriving business because of it. So I mean, I don't believe she'd been open a year, and now she has 3 transaction coordinators underneath her. So she's built an amazing business from the ground up.
Right. All right. We're gonna reach out, Samantha Cox, right?
Yeah, I'll give you her number. I have it when we're done. When we stop filming.
Give that to. We'll have her on because I think it's the growth of any agent.
Is the
you gotta
team
let
that's
go.
behind them.
You've got to let go and let some people that really actually, if you do your due diligence, find out someone who's got a track record. They've been doing a good job instead of just hiring somebody that you saw an ad on Facebook or something, which we've all done.
Yes.
We've all done that. But if you really, I gotta control it. There are people that are better than you, and just think about, spending more time doing what you really like to do.
Right.
And if transactions is actually really what you like to do, maybe you need to do what Samantha did.
Maybe you should go work for Sam.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you like to, because I think you're right. The top agents are forward facing. They're out doing their showings. They're spending the quality time with their people, and that's where they're building the relationship. Because I think the other thing we didn't really mention, when you say forward facing, you're creating a relationship with that person. And if you're in and out because you have to go back and order this, or you have to go back because you have another transaction going on, and you're running around and not really spending that quality forward-facing time with them, you are losing the marketing dollars that person's going to be, hopefully over their lifespan, that might refer you 3 or 4 people over the next handful of years.
100%. Yes. I'm intentional with putting my phone in do not disturb mode when I'm showing houses and not answering messages or calling people unless it's about that house. Like I'm reaching out to that agent because that buyer has said, can you get a question answered, fill in the blank. But yes, not being distracted in front of your customers is huge because it shows them that you value their time. And then I get a lot of respect back, right? So when I'm valuing their time during the showings and they're getting my devoted attention, 9 times out of 10, once we're under contract, they will say, hey, I know you might be with somebody right now and I don't want to bother you. You've given us the time and attention. I don't want to take up too much of your time right now. So it's very interesting how when I because I'm not saying to them, I value your time, so I'm not on my phone. I value your time, so I'm not distracted. But
they notice it.
But they
in today's
notice
world,
it.
people start to notice stuff like
Exactly,
that.
yeah. So then when they say that to me, like, hey, I don't want to take up too much of your time, I can see that it's a beneficial relationship and that we've established those boundaries of whose time is valuable.
100%. Anything you like to add?
No, this has been great. It's been fun.
Yeah, this was really good.
I appreciate it.
We jam-packed. We could talk for hours for sure.